How's it? Welcome to Hanging Out with Nolan Hong, and we are, as always, right here in the Pop Creative Media Studios in Honolulu, Hawaii, being flanked by my super producer extraordinaire, Jamie, and my co-host, Dr. Emmett Bede. And today we have a fun episode. We got my friend, Rob DeMello. He is the sports director at KHON. You know him for, of course, sports. But we have kind of an interesting background of how we got to know each other. We first met through him covering local MMA and me being in the MMA scene. But we have a funny story that he didn't remember of something that I asked him to do as a favor to me. And you're going to love that story. It's really funny. But anyways, Rob, such a busy guy, but he was able to take a couple hours, sit down with us and hang out. So you're really going to enjoy this. This is our interview with Rob DeMello. He's named after this guy.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Emmett Brown.
Nice. You know, I've never seen Back to the Future.
What?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Like, name a movie I'm supposed to see.
Yeah.
Probably haven't seen it.
That's like you too.
See, that's like me, but...
Like, name a movie that's favorite. Like stupid, and I saw it and loved it, you know? Like,
so is it like a generational thing? Like during a certain era?
Okay, yeah. As a kid, I just didn't watch movies. And... Because at a really young age, I got obsessed with sports. That's all I watched.
Yeah.
And I just watched sports. And that's it. And you couldn't get me to do anything else. And so, yeah, growing up, you know, I was born 82. So you figure through like the late 80s, early 90s, and the 90s, and really all that stuff. And then now it's like, I love movies now, but now it's like, it's too daunting. It's like, there's too much stuff I have to see. So I've never seen a Star Wars.
Whoa!
I've never seen a Godfather. I've never seen a Rocky. Like, you know, like all those like...
Rocky's a sports
yeah,
movie.
but I just didn't watch movies. So even though it was a sports movie, I just didn't watch movies.
You want the real thing.
So the funny thing is, I had a VHS tape of Grease when I was a kid. I watched that like all the time because like, I just didn't have a lot of VHS tapes, right? So it was like pro wrestling. I had like all the pay-per-views and all that, and Grease. And so if I didn't feel like watching sports, I'd watch Grease.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I'd sing along and like yeah.
So we're kind of opposite because like everybody knows that I didn't watch a lot of 80s movies. So like at one point I put out on Facebook like, my friends are telling me I have to watch all these like 80s movies, so tell me which movies to watch. And I had like a list of almost 80 movies or so. Yeah. And I only watched maybe 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. But the ones that I did see were Rocky, Godfather, Star Wars, the ones all you mentioned. Yeah. And the one I never watched was Grease.
Oh. Yeah, see?
We're living
if we were together, like our brains combined, we just know everything about movies. Yeah.
But man, you need to see... Maybe we'll do this where we'll make you watch Back to the Future on another podcast and see what your reaction is.
Right? Yeah. And that's the thing is that I'm not against it or like, even the Star Wars, like I'm not into sci-fi, but I've never been like, I don't want to see Star Wars. Yeah. It's just like, I gotta watch like, 6 movies now? And those are like 3 hours each. I don't have that kind of time. When am I gonna watch that?
The hard part too is like, I haven't seen the original ones in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if they're actually any good for a person nowadays to watch them. It might be like really slow and
I feel you,
weird.
Yeah. You know, it's what movie was it? It was I was trying to get my wife to watch something that I loved. Oh, I think it was it was Major League. It was Major League movies.
That's not good anymore?
And I don't know, it was kind of slower than I remember. Yeah. And it wasn't as but I still loved it because I love baseball, but as I was watching it, you know when you try to get someone to watch a movie and you're like watching their reaction, like, and like 50 minutes in, I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, it's too much pressure.
You just feel the. Is this gonna pick up any minute?
Yeah.
Oh, sad. Yeah, so that's what it was like for our friends who made me watch Breakfast Club, and they were like so sure that I would like it, and I would just see the previews. Well, she didn't think I would like it.
I knew you weren't going to like it.
But all the rest of my friends.
It might end our relationship.
And like, sure enough, maybe 30 minutes in, they caught me sleeping.
Oh, I was like, what is this about?
Like,
That's Molly Ringwald. Is that the? Yeah, okay.
So did you see that movie?
I saw that.
See? It's weird. I think together, combined, we might have seen
if I
enough
was an
80s movies.
80s female, like, you know, I saw every 80s and 90s movie if you're a woman.
Yeah.
And it was because it was all my sister's VHS tapes, right? So it's like, whatever she had, I'd watch. Because it's not like I was old enough to like go to the store and like, oh, I want to watch this movie.
Yeah.
It was just whatever she had, I'd watch. So yeah, Babysitter's Club and
Oh my gosh.
Cry Baby with Johnny Depp and like just all those movies that she had, I just watch them on loop.
Wow.
So are you the type that can remember all like the famous lines and stuff and recite things from the movies, or?
Yeah, at that time for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about how much I remember now. Grease, I do, because I remember watching that that live production that they did on Fox a couple years ago, and I was singing along.
So did you like that version? Because
I did.
Purists kind of didn't like it, right?
I liked it, but I appreciate like the different forms. Like Jersey Boys. Like I saw the movie and the play in Vegas, and they're both different, but I love them both. Like I think I just appreciate work.
Yeah,
too, you know? Because I don't just watch to be entertained. Like I'm also like watching and just like, wow, this person can sing, or you know, this is amazing. And so I tend to, the older I get, I hate less things.
Yeah.
You know, like I appreciate more
That's
things.
nice.
Yeah.
Start drinking
I'm the
less of the
opposite of my
haterade.
father. As I get older.
This is our routine for every episode lately, is that Emmett will start it off by chewing on all of the loud squeaky toys, and then he'll start chewing on people's mics, and then about 5 minutes later he's passed out.
Yeah.
So let me go find something to give him here. So anyways, you just mentioned Vegas, which you just came back from Vegas, right?
Yeah, in fact, I had 2 trips back to back. And so, long story is, I won this Employee of the Year award at KHON, and that they give out every year. And with it, you get a trip to Vegas, like all expense paid, the flight, the hotel, and everything. Right?
Oh, wow.
Holy smokes.
And you can book it for whenever you want. So what I did was, it was in December that this happened, early December. And so when I got it, I hadn't bought my wife anything for Christmas yet. And so I was thinking, I was like, oh, what am I going to get her? And so I knew she loved Bruno Mars. So I was like, oh, I know he's playing in Vegas.
Yeah.
Just figure out when this is. And then I'll book the trip around that. So I could give her Bruno Mars tickets, you know, for her Christmas present. And then the trip is already taken care of.
Right,
and so
right.
I did that. So that was July 15th was the concert. So our trip was the 11th to the 17th. But the week before that, I got a interview request granted for Dana White at the UFC International Fight Week.
Yeah.
That I've been trying to do for years and years and years. And so the week before, I got to go fly up to Vegas. And so I did the exact same trip, back to back, same plane, same hotel,
way.
same everything.
Wow.
But the first trip, I did nothing Vegas. Like all I did was work, like, and on purpose. When I was done, it was weird. I was like watching Seinfeld in like the hotel room because I didn't want to like Vegas out.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to the next week, and boy did I ever.
So you said that you got an interview request granted. So how does it work? Is it just that you just send it out to the UFC people and just keep asking and asking, like, can we come up and interview you?
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, I have a good relationship with the UFC just because, you know, when I first started, you know, there weren't a lot of people covering the UFC, and especially for a local network. You know, they'd get their coverage through like combat sport websites, or like, you know, even back in the day, MMAHawaii.com and things like that. But there weren't a lot of TV stations covering the UFC, so they really appreciated when people did. And so I was kind of like in on the ground floor for that. So I just have a lot of contacts there, and so I keep in touch with them all the time. And you know, and I've always been trying to tell them, you know, I really want to talk to Dana about UFC Hawaii, and you know, and this was back when BJ, you know, and so we had interviewed him before. This is like 07, 08. And since then, we haven't talked to him, though. Mm-hmm. And so I've been, you know, trying. And so one of the days, one of my contacts over there gave me a call and said, you know, I think this Dana thing could happen, but you have to get to Vegas. If you get here for International Fight Week, there's so many, you know, events that at one of them, like, we can get them for you. And so I was like, all right. So I went to my station and I asked them, or told them that, hey, like, we need to get to Vegas, and we worked it out and went up there, and it all worked out.
Did they see at your station? Did they see the value of that? Like, were they on board? Like, yeah, you're right, we do that.
Yeah.
There, or did you have to kind of convince them.
You gotta convince,
Yeah.
but I mean that's just the nature of the beast. You know, it's sports isn't the most important thing in the world to them, right? And in a news department, and for good reason. Like, you know, the people who are in power in a news department, you know, work their way up in a news department. You know, so of course they're not going to see sports as being as important. You know, and so yeah, you got to convince that, but that's part of the job. It's also, you know, they know too, because I know what's when to go to them and say, I need this, or we need to do this, or we need to push this. I won't do that for everything.
Yeah.
You know, I won't be like, hey, today's the third day of UH football practice. Like, you know, it's when it's big. And so they know that. So when I do come to them and say, like, we need to do this, then they understand that, like, okay, this must be a big deal because Rob's saying it is.
So was there a chance, you're saying like the people at the UFC were like, oh, there's going to be a good chance that you could get an interview with Dana. Was there a chance that you might not have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you went up there with just a chance.
Absolutely. But then with Dana White, that's the best you're going to get. You know, and they were explaining that to me too. And they said, you know, don't take this the wrong way. It's not because it's you.
Yeah.
You know, he has stuff lined up with USA Today and ESPN and CNN. And then the last second, he's on a jet to Italy. You know, and so it's just the nature of the beast with Dana White. But yeah, it was gnarly, man. You know, all the events started on the Thursday of that week, and so it's like the media day, and then Friday there was a back-to-back cards, Friday cards, Saturday cards. So Friday Brad Tavares fought, Saturday Travis Brown fought. So I was covering them while I was up there as well, and Max was there making his media rounds because he had just won the title. So even if I didn't get Dana, I was getting a lot of content. I was sending stuff back. We were running stories. But as we got closer, so Thursday, I knew it was going to be that day, but they said, oh, maybe after the weigh-ins on Friday. Weigh-ins on Friday. Okay, it's not going to be that. Maybe after tomorrow's weigh-in. Boom, weigh-in happens, not after that. Okay, the Friday event, after Brad's fight is over, stick around, you know, do your interview with Brad, but stick around maybe after the event. After the event's over, okay, no, I think it's going to be tomorrow. And so I was planning ahead as if I wasn't getting him.
Yeah.
You know, other stuff that we were going to be able to do. But that Saturday night, once UFC 213 was over, they brought him in, and it was actually great. He you know, like I said, I had interviewed him before.
Right.
And when I had my radio show, he would come on kind of frequently, like maybe once every 2 months or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is back in like 05, 06.
Is this the one that you did with Kanoa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with Kanoa, and then I did one with Russell Yamanoha, the Red AM 1500.
Yeah. That was my favorite radio show, and I was so bummed when you guys ended it, because it wasn't for very long, right?
Yeah, we did it for maybe 3 years, I think. And really, I stopped because I had my daughter.
Oh.
And it was just because I was still doing TV too, so I was doing radio in the morning and TV at night, and you just couldn't keep that up. And so I would interview him, and he was always super cool and cordial. But then the Ultimate Fighter TV show came out, and he just took off. Right, he just put into a whole other atmosphere, and. So this is the first time I talked to him since, and so I wasn't sure how he was going to be, and he was the coolest, man. He was respectful and answered all my questions, and even before and after the interview, we were just rapping, and I was kind of amazed at how down to earth he was, and he was happy that I was there, because he knows the effort that it takes to get from Hawaii, and so when he was introduced, and they said, you know, this is Rob DeMello from Fox in Hawaii. He just like, Hawaii? Holy smokes. And, you know, he kind of dropped everything and gave me his
awesome.
Full attention. And, you know, how it works in the UFC, and I didn't know this until this event, was they segregate the media with the UFC partner media. So like Fox Sports 1, and then the countries that don't have Fox and Fox Sports 1, the Fox Sports Australia, TSN in Canada, and Cambache in Brazil. They give them their own room. So the fighters fight. Less than 5 minutes after they walk out, into the locker rooms, they're there doing their interview with Fox Sports 1, Megan O'Leary, and then they'll do these one-on-one interviews with all these countries, because that's the UFC's outlet to those countries. And so they put me in that room. So I wasn't even with, Ariel Helwani and, those guys.
Yeah.
They put me in this room with their partners, and which I'm super grateful for, because they didn't need to do that. And again, it just goes to how, I built relationships over the years. And the UFC's always been really good to me. And to the point where, their ranking system, there's only 16 voters in the world that vote on the rankings, and I'm one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
No way.
So those, like, the rankings where someone's going to fight. There's number 4 middleweight versus number 7. Yeah, there's only 16 voters.
How do they determine who they give that distinction to?
Yeah, I think they just choose media, because it's all media members.
Yeah.
And they choose media members that I guess they feel that they could trust, that will take it seriously.
You're down from day one.
So it only happened a few years ago for me. They contacted me and said, hey, we have an opening. These don't open up very often. Someone in the UFC said that you're someone that we should look into. And I was told that there was going to be a bunch that they're going to look into. And there was a vetting process that lasted almost a year, where after events, they would email me and say, okay, give us your top 15 bantamweight, heavyweight, and women's strawweight. Send this to us by Monday or whatever. And then so you'd send it. They'd write back and say, like, okay, why did you put this person here, and why did you put, you just kind of explain yourself. And it was getting kind of tired. Like, it was kind of tiring after a while. It was just like every event, and it's just like, I might not even be doing this, and you guys keep having me.
Because they have one like every 2 weeks now.
Yeah, and sometimes of the year it's every week.
Yeah,
and multiple times in a week. So yeah, it was taking up a lot of time. But then one day I just got an email and said, congratulations, you've been added to the pool, and you've been put on this. So before every event, it's cool. I get a briefing of, and they kind of break down all the fights for you and give you a lot of statistics and background, and just for anyone that's not, might not know about a certain fighter, you can learn about him before the fight. And then after every event, I think you have 48 hours to send in your rankings. But it's hard because it's every division.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you might not have a fight in that division for that weekend that really affects anything. But then, this week, UFC 214, I mean, every division is represented in those cards, and loaded fighters, and so it takes up time, and I don't really get anything. I don't get paid.
I was going to ask.
No. You don't get paid. And
so it's just more because you love the sport and being involved with it, I guess?
Yeah, and it probably helped me get this interview too,
Yeah.
So, and it helps me with a lot of the UFC stuff that I'm able to report on. And I'm sure that if it ever came up to where I was looking for a job or anything, then I'm sure being able to put this on the resume can only help, especially because there's such a few amount of people that are able to do it. So
does this mean you have to watch like every single event and fight, even like the prelims and all that stuff?
Yeah, and but there are times that you can't, because I'm a father, and and
you got a job,
and there's things that I got to be doing, and so I find a way to watch it before having to do the rankings. So if I don't watch it live, I'll watch it, the next day.
Yeah.
And again, it will be a fight that can alter the ranking too, right? Maybe it's two guys making their UFC debut, and I'll watch that eventually, maybe before the next time they fight again. But I know that no matter what this guy does, he's not going to be able to, supplant someone that's ranked 15th at this point. This is his debut, and so but it really pay attention to the ranked fighters and the fighters that are on the cusp, for sure.
How much does it matter to you as far as how entertaining they are versus the results of their fights?
Yeah, to me it's not at all. The result is everything, because it's a sport at the end of the day. I get it in regards to the UFC and what they pay them, or what kind of fights they get next.
Right.
Totally get it, because at the end of the day, this is entertainment. But what I feel I'm being asked to do is rank these fighters based on their performance. And really, I mean, I could tell by looking at some of the other ballots too that's affected, that someone might have a really impressive win and just shoot up, despite maybe even losing to someone that's below them like a couple of years ago,
right.
Or whatever it is, right? Where for me, it's, hey, I don't care how you win, I don't care about anything else. Like, if you're victorious, then that's what you were asked to do, and that's the name of the game. So if you win, you move up. I mean, that's like Max Holloway. I mean, it took him a long time to move up the rankings because really until that Ricardo Lamas fight where you pointed to the ground in the last 10 seconds, went at it, that was his moment. That's what separated him from other people. He didn't have anything until then. So I think for someone like me, I saw the talent. I saw, because I, am around him so much and been covering him for so long, going back to, the X1 days. I think for some of the other voters, they needed to find that entertainment value. They needed what is Max Holloway? What separates him from everybody else? And then that night in LA, that was bonkers, man.
Yeah.
And I was covering that one, too. I was up there at the forum, and it was funny is I don't know if you guys remember Ariel Helwani got kicked out.
Yeah.
So Brad Tavares. So I was going up for this event, and the whole purpose was to cover Max. So I was going to cover Max's fight, do an interview with him after, but I also wanted to do something else. And so I was trying to think of outside the box, what can I do? And so I thought I want to do a thing with Ariel. Ask him about UFC Hawaii, ask him about the Hawaii fighters, and because he's I like talking to people that aren't in it. You know, it's easy to talk to someone who loves Hawaii and loves the Hawaii fighters, and I want to talk to someone who has no ties and then see what they think. And so Brad Tavares hooked me up with Ariel, and so I was in contact with him leading up to the event, and so we had planned that after Max's fight is done, we'll meet in the media room. And I'll pull him out somewhere. We'll just do a quick interview in the hallway or something like that. And so after Max's fight was over, I texted him and okay, bro, I'm here. I'll be waiting right outside the media room in the hallway to do this interview. And so we did this interview, and it was great. And he was awesome as I thought he would be. And then it was right after our interview's over. Someone from the UFC goes, "Oh, Ariel, come! Someone wants to talk to you." And so it was all right, bro. See you later. And the next thing you know, it's like the Bisping fight's about to start, and I'm looking at Twitter and I'm reading that all this stuff that what's going on. Or maybe it was right after the Bisping fight was over, but and then all of this went down, and I was like, oh my goodness! It's a good thing I did that interview when I did, because 30 seconds later, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah. So, Jamie, if you didn't know what happened, so Ariel, who's a super respected MMA journalist of the year every year, he got kicked out of the UFC event right before the main event was about to start because he had leaked out information about the Brock Lesnar announcement. Yeah. And so no one had known about it, and he had just done what most reporters do and say, heard UFC is going to announce that Brock Lesnar's coming back. And then I guess when Dana and them found out, they're like, get him out of here. And they banned him. Because that was big,
no one saw it coming. So even when Ariel reported it, it was like, what?
Yeah, he still didn't believe it.
Wait, this is out of nowhere. It's out of left field, Brock Lesnar, what? And so the UFC was real upset. So it went on for a while, a couple weeks where he was banned, and it got national attention.
Yep.
And
he was on all Dan Patrick show and all these national shows where they would interview him, asking him what's the deal? And I think for the most part, most journalists supported Ariel because they're defending him this is his job, this is what he's supposed to do, and UFC can't kind of monopolize what gets told and reported. What was your opinion on it?
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't. I get the UFC has every right to be upset, and really at the end of the day, they can do whatever they want. It's their company, and but it's a stupid move to do that, and it's a bad for your public perception, and but the UFC's kind of always been able to get away with just being crazy sometimes, especially Dana, and it's almost like the Manny Ramirez thing, it's just Dana being Dana, but I mean, I'm glad that they reinstated him, and because that's. I mean, if you take away journalists and reporters, it's a messy world. It's a messy world when it's everything is a press release, and it's.
Yeah. Had you been in Ariel's shoes, knowing that you have a relationship with this company, with the way you have it now with Dana now, would you have leaked that information?
Yeah, and every reporter is different, and every story is different. Trust me, I report maybe 15% of what I know, and it's because there are times to do it and times not to do it, and not just to save relationships, but it's also, you just can't just willy-nilly everything you learn just put it out there. I mean, because you need to make sure that things are accurate. You need to make sure that things have maturated to what it is, because there's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure that things are legit. This was a big story. So, Ariel, like, he got it and he felt he needed to run with it. There's been times where, locally I've had big stories that I chose to sit on to help me later. Because that's the thing too, is that you got to work with these people, whether it's an athlete or whether it's a team or a school or a coach or whatever it is, that, there's a marathon, not a sprint, And so if people can trust you, if people understand that, okay, he has to do this. This is a really big story. But, I remember he had that other story that wasn't that big and he sat on it, it just, it's like any other job where you need to know when is the right time. And I think that was a right time. It was a big story, but at the same time, you also have to know what the consequences are.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ariel knew that, what could have happened, and is what did happen. Being that he has dealt with the UFC and Dana White for so long. Yeah.
It's so crazy to me because before that, I always, from what I would watch, it seemed like he and Dana had a really good relationship. Like, they would give him all these great exclusive interviews.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, and they would just go back and forth and bust each other's balls about Patriots football and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, like, there's still kind of a rift there. Dana
totally.
ripped off, took his credentials away from the
McGregor, yeah.
Yeah. So, based on your interactions with Ariel, do you think he's a cool guy? Like,
he's the coolest.
He seems like the coolest guy.
No, so from that time that I interviewed him, we've been in contact ever since. We text each other all the time, and if he has any questions about Hawaii specifically too, about Hawaii Fighter or the UFC Hawaii, he'll ask me my thoughts. And in fact, there was one of his MMA hours in June. He asked me a few questions about the potential of a UFC Hawaii, and so I texted him back, my thoughts, and he shared it on one of his shows where he was talking about UFC Hawaii, and he's like, oh well, Rob DeMello, a reporter over there, told me this, and so and we use each other because I've used him a bunch of times since then too, to help me out with things or to get me to do an interview or things like that. So yeah, he's a super cool guy. I really dig him. That's
good to know because just from being a fan of his, I always felt like he seems like the type of person that I consider myself as far as being a fan. Like he asks the same questions that I want to know. He seems really nice and unassuming. Like he's like not a jerk about it, but there's like a handful of people that just hate his guts.
Yeah,
and I'm like, maybe I don't know something.
Yeah, but that's just it is what it is.
Yeah,
That's one thing I learned very early when you like put yourself out there is that some people are just gonna hate you just because they hate you, and you just gotta deal with it.
Not that you have to name any names, but do you have people in the sports world that no matter what you do, they just don't like you right now, like, or that make your job a little difficult?
I've been pretty fortunate. I haven't really dealt through that.
That's good.
There are people that are just easier than others to deal with.
Yeah.
And I've definitely had my share of those people. But, knock on wood, I mean, I've been super fortunate that I've had really, really good relationships with a lot of people that I have to cover. And it's helped me tremendously in my career,
Yeah.
A guy like Marcus Mariota, Max Holloway, and, those are guys that have always been super supportive of me and helpful and, give me interviews, exclusive interviews for that matter, and I'm forever grateful for it. And, because they know that I'm just doing my job, and if it's bad and I got to do it, if it's something bad, like I got to do it and I'm going to do it as respectfully as I can. Mm-hmm. I'm not one of those guys that I'm not into like the drama of it. I'm into just covering it.
It seems like that's getting more and more popular, these days with sports. For
sure. Because I think a lot of it too is, especially on a national scope, because there's so many outlets, there's so many ways to get, the same thing, right? So it's kind of like for this, for UFC fights, instead of listening to all these like MMA podcasts where it's like MMA reporters. I'll listen to The Fighter and the Kid before a fight, or the Big Brown Breakdown with Brendan Schaub, right? Because it's interesting. He talks about stuff that has nothing to do with the fight, but will touch up on the fight, where, a lot of the other stuff is just so specific. Like, okay, what's he have to do to win? And you could just get that in so many different places, you know? And so I think in that regard, to how sports is covered is that, you can go to SportsCenter and get a preview of the Patriots-Falcons game, but TMZ could get you the dirt, They'll tell you about what Tom Brady ate for breakfast, And so they gotta, find ways to make it different. And I think that's why we're in the world we're in now, in as far as sports goes, where a lot of the reporting is more entertainment than actual sport content.
Have you ever had to have a situation where you kind of you feel bad about what you're going to have to report, and you just call the person in advance and be like, hey, sorry, I'm going to have to...
Yeah, absolutely. It happens. Arrests, DUIs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Things like that. Domestic violence. But it's my job, But you definitely, you never feel good about it, And then there's stories that you got to cover that just break your heart. Like when Cole Brennan got into his car accident on the Big Island. I was a mess, man. That was like hard because we thought he was dying. Like, when everything first went down and you're getting all this information and hearing of his condition, and I thought that this young man, who he and I are relatively the same age, and I was covering him and we're about the same age because he went to prep school out of high school, then he went to Colorado, then he sat out, then he went to a JC, and then he came to Hawaii. Yeah. And, and I was 19 years old. When I started reporting.
No way.
And so in 2007, I was 25 and he was probably 23 or 24. So, we had a really good relationship, and so when all that went down, it was really hard to like do my job because I was really concerned, and my heart was breaking for him, and that, I think when that happened, that must have been 2011 maybe or something like that, and my best friend had passed in 2010, and that was my childhood best friend, and so I that's still fresh, and it was hard, man. Covering those stories are brutal, and then even with the non-life threatening stories, like someone getting fired,
right.
You feel bad, you really feel for these people because I think a lot of times in sports, people don't view athletes as humans, and the same goes for musicians and actors. They're like characters, or they're just things, and I'll never forget, I won't mention names, but there's a reporter that was a big fan of a certain team, and we're covering the Pro Bowl. And, just a big super fan, and so after the work's all done, he goes up to one of the Pro Bowlers and who's a defensive player, and he's like, "Oh man, the next time you play against the Packers and break Aaron Rodgers' leg," and so the athlete is like looking at him like, "What?" And I'm like, "Why? Like, you just told this man to break another man's leg?" Like, even the athlete is just, "I'm like, what are you talking about, man?" And and it's crazy, and you realize that, like, dude, this is a real person, like who has a child and a family, and it's bonkers. It's so when you gotta cover a story where someone's getting fired or someone's suspended or whatever, it breaks your heart, but you gotta do your job.
How hard is it? Because for us on the outside, when, for instance, like the Colt story, we heard like 500 different things, and some were really off and some were close to accurate stuff. But you being associated with a lot of people close to the source, like, do you get a lot of terrible misinformation?
Oh, absolutely. And every story has two sides, right? And there's rarely a right and wrong, right? It's everyone sees things through their own eyes, and everyone's different, and so you just gotta. And that's what I meant earlier too about only reporting 15% of what you know, is because you gotta make sure it's right. We live in a world right now where it's first, gotta be first. I want to be the first to tweet it out. I want to be the first to, that's just not important to me. I want to make sure that the people that take their time to watch me or to follow me, you know, on social media or whatever it is, if they use me as a source to get their information, I want to make sure that they never have to worry about me being reckless or wrong, or, you know, maybe someone else might get it out first, you know, but they might be wrong. I mean, I've seen that many, many times where someone who does the same job as me might just hurry up and get it out and be like, ooh, backtrack, you know, and I just don't want to do that. So,
do you ever find yourself in positions sometimes where people try to use you and your influence to gain some kind of advantage for themselves? Like, for instance, like we hear a lot now, like athletes will leak information to a reporter just so that can help their status with free agency or trade or whatnot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they should. They absolutely should. You know, and because at the end of the day, and I've had this conversation with a lot of my people who have become good friends, like lifelong friends through covering them, is, man, this is take advantage of me while I try to take advantage of you. You know, and because that's what it is. Like, you know, I have a job to do. I need to fill this time that I've been given for the news, or I need to put out this story. So if you have a story to tell me, because I need to fill this time. You want to get your name out, you want to get your face out, you want to build your brand. We can do it together, you know. And that's the funny thing with the media relationship with who you're covering, sports or not, is that there are times where the media is helping you, and then there are times where the media has to tell people things that you don't want people to know.
Right.
That's just the way it is, you know. But at the same time, there are times that an athlete, you know, might not provide anything that we want, you know, and vice versa. And so it's, but that's just, I mean, that's my way of looking at life, period. You know, just everyone, it's like almost like the yin and yang, right? So it's like, you know, the postman that comes in to give you your mail, like, you don't think anything of it, right? You just like, oh, you know, my mail just magically delivers, and I get it every day. But you need to be good to him, because what happens if he hates you and starts, you know, he sees a HECO bill and he's like, I'm going to throw this away, and, you know.
Starts shaking your Amazon box.
Yeah, exactly, right? You just need to, like, it all works. It's in waves, and, you know, and whether, like, you need to be good to people so that people will hopefully in return be good to you. You need to trust people and be respectful of people, and because you're hoping that it comes back to you. And if it doesn't, then, well, you did your part, you know, and that's just the way I feel. So.
You know what I always wanted to know is, so whenever I listen to, like, local sports radio talk, or even, like, fan phones and all that stuff, it seems like the local public always has these crazy perceptions or misinformation. They try to, like, tell people what they believe is fact when it seems like so far from the truth. Like, do you ever find it hard knowing that you have a lot of information that sometimes you can't release? That it's so hard. Like, you're like, that's not the way it is, and you just want to say it. But you ever have that?
Yeah, that happens, and a lot of it has to do with character, or like about, you know, when people make claims about a person or about a player, and I know that this guy does this, or I know that this, or if someone's benched, right? And it could be because of a personal issue that, you know, the team doesn't want out, or the player, you know, and they're protecting the player, and then someone, you know, talks about, this player is benched because of it. You know, there's a lot of stuff that happens like that. But I mean, you just gotta deal with it, you know. And you know, I the funny thing is that I love passion. So whether it's right or wrong, I love hearing fans that are passionate, you know, because then it also just reinforces to why I do what I do. You know, if people are just like, you know, about the things that I cover, about UH football or UFC or surfing or whatever it is, right? High school sports. And if people are just like, you know, like, whatever's, then it's not as exciting for me. I want to hear how passionate people are and how excited they are, because then it makes me want to do my job. Yeah. Right? So, it's just... That's
a cool way of putting it. Yeah. Because I think that's the same philosophy, like we were talking about wrestling earlier, and wrestling people and like WWE, they're like, whether you're cheering or booing, as long as you're making noise, that's all we care about.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're sitting on your hands, then we're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
So when you were you said when you were growing up that all you ever wanted to do was watch sports and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What was it about sports that Was it your family got you influenced, or?
It's funny. No one in my family watched sports.
Really?
Including my dad. He didn't really watch sports all that much. I mean, he watched UH football. We went to UH football together. He had season tickets, but he wouldn't watch on TV. Like, I don't remember waking up early Sunday mornings and he was watching football. You know, he was a car guy. I was working on his car and things like that. I really don't know. I really don't know what it is, but it was it was my mom. So I don't know if this is true because my mom, and she loves me, but she told me that that I taught myself how to read using sports cards.
Huh.
And that she said that I just started reading all of a sudden, and I shouldn't have been. It's not like it was before I got to school, and she said it's just because I knew what teams these were. I knew these people's names, and then I kind of just, if that says Braves and that letter is there, then that must be buh, And so I don't know if that's true, but she swears that's what happened. So, but I do remember ever since I was a little kid, and it was anything like competition, like monster trucks and pro wrestling and then of course like sports, baseball and basketball and football and hockey. I loved hockey as a kid. It was, I just really loved
like
sports.
One of the few kids in Hawaii that loved hockey.
The funny thing with hockey,
in those days, it wasn't that nationally covered, right?
So my sports teams as a kid, and really still now, my first baseball coach, Little League baseball coach, this man Larry Gothe in Kailua, he was from Louisiana, and he loved the Saints. And so he would come to practice, and he'd have a Saints hat on. His truck had like a little Saints emblem on it. And I just thought he was the coolest. He was the coolest dude. He was like the Fonz, Like, this guy is the man. And so when I was a kid, I'd see like the Saints football cards, and I'd be like, oh, the Saints. And so I'd go to practice the next day and be like, I love the Saints too. And then so what it turned into was the fleur-de-lis, the logo. Anything that had it, I loved.
Oh.
So in hockey, it was the Quebec Nordiques back then, and the Montreal Expos in baseball, and LSU had a little fleur-de-lis on the back of their helmet. And so anything that had it, so anything that was like French Canadian or French or, and then Louisiana, I just gravitated to. And so I don't know if you guys remember the wrestler Dino Bravo?
Yeah.
Loved him because he had the fleur-de-lis, right? He was from Quebec, and the Rougeau
You're
brothers.
The only person I know that loved Dino Bravo.
Yeah, right? He was a D-bag, too. Total D-bag. But
yeah, when he did the whole bench
push-ups and stuff. And it was just because the fleur-de-lis, And so so in hockey, I loved the Nordiques. And then in 94, they moved to Colorado for the 95 season. They became the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
And in that first year, they won the Stanley Cup. Oh. And then I stopped watching hockey. It was like total this sucks. Yeah. And so I hadn't watched it but now I'm trying to get back into it because Vegas has a team. Mm-hmm. And so Ninth Island is the closest thing we're going to have to a team, right? So I'm trying to get back into hockey with the Golden Knights.
So you must have been stoked when the Warriors had to go to Louisiana for the Sugar Bowl. Then.
Yeah, I didn't get to go, though, because I was at KITV at the time.
Yeah.
And I was, Robert Kikalu was the sports director. I was weekend. Oh. And so Robert went up, and I stayed back. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that brutal for you?
Yeah, it was, but not for a second did I feel like I should have gone and Robert shouldn't have. So, it was easy to get over just because the situation. I didn't try to fight for it or anything. But that was a magical time, man.
Well, we had a hell of a time trying to get there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like, we had to fly, because all the flights were all booked, so we flew into Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
And took, like, a rental car. Yeah. Drove, like, 8 hours or something.
I love hearing these stories. I know so many people that did that. And just, we landed in Shreveport, or we landed in Texas or whatever it is, and people drove, and that was a fun time. I love hearing those stories about like the 07 year.
It's funny because they just I think Bleacher Report just did this full length kind of article about it, and they interviewed Robert.
Yeah.
But I totally forgot about all of the drama with who is Frazier.
Oh, Herman Frazier, yeah.
Was he difficult to work with? Because it seemed like everyone who worked with him on the school and sports level was like, was frustrated with him. But as far as
he was easy for me.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, because but I'm also not getting a check from him. So I think the people who got paid from him, and in that regards, like June needed to work out his contract and all that. That was there was a lot of debacles surrounding the program at that time. But it's also one of those things that you think about what would have things turned out the way they did if the circumstances were different. If June got that contract, you never know what could happen from that, right? And so I don't know. Like, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Do you think June would have stayed, or because
I really
contract
don't know.
he got from
SMU?
Like, how do you turn it down?
Yeah,
right?
and I don't know, to be honest, because you look at June in his career, he gets bored of things, and he loves that turnaround thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I don't know. The thing you got to remember, too, is that if you're June Jones, like, that was the pinnacle.
Right.
I mean...
Nowhere else to go but...
Like, if you're the head coach of the university, there's no bigger than that. There's no bigger than that. I mean, because you look at, like, Boise, with how many years they did, they were never really in contention for a national title, ever. What you're fighting for is trying to get on one of those New Year's games, and he did it, you know, and I wouldn't have been surprised that he was gone regardless. Yeah.
So going back to when you started with sports, was it that you were also active in sports too, or is it more that you really gravitated towards the learning about the statistics and stuff? Like, how did it turn into a career for you?
Yeah, so this is crazy. So as a kid, loved sports, loved writing, loved reading about sports. Luckily for me, my brain worked the right way where I was able to identify that there are people that do this for a living, that love sports and talk about sports, and so as a little kid, I remember all of this vividly. I was in kindergarten at Keolu Elementary School, and we had a day where we had to choose a career, and we just went in order. And I remember we were going in order of how we sat, and DeMello, I was early.
Yeah.
But I was also a naughty kid and incredibly ADHD, and so I got in trouble when I remember I went to the back of the line.
Oh, no way.
And so I remember standing in line, I was listening to everybody, and so I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a police officer, I want to do this, and I want to be an American Gladiator, and then so I just wanted to say something different.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking like, oh, what can I say? And I thought of Les Kiter. Who was the longtime KHON sports guy, right, back in the day. And I didn't know what the name of his job was, but I remember watching the news, and I remember thinking, like, that's cool. And so it got to my turn, and I said, I want to be Les Kiter. And so my teacher, Mrs. Kim, I remember saying, that's a sportscaster. You want to be a sportscaster? And I was like, yeah, I want to be a sportscaster. And that was that. Like, I never swayed. The rest of my life was... So I went home, told my mom I'm going to be a sportscaster, and so then she had me watching the news. I mean, she'd call me when the sports was on because she's like, she knew I was interested. So, and I would watch, and it just never went away. So anyone that grew up with me in Enchanted Lake, that from the time I was 5 years old, that's what I said I was going to do. That's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to be a sportscaster. And
man, your mom's amazing.
Yeah, no, she's awesome, and she used to. I used to write stories as a kid, and who knows what these stories look like now, and
she keep any of them?
I don't know, probably because she's a hoarder. She probably
we should go and find these things,
And she would read them for me, and so she really kept it going, kept it alive, and so fast forward now to high school, and I'm still interested in it. I still love it. And I have a buddy at Kailua High School, Nathaniel Conley, who was a couple years older than me. So I was a sophomore, he was a senior. And he was graduating from high school, and he was about to go to Bradley University in journalism. And in fact, we wrote for the school newspaper together.
Oh.
And his family, as a graduation gift, went to some fundraiser, and there was a thing where you could win a dinner with the KGMB crew and watch them do the news behind the scenes. And so they bid for that. They won it, and it was you could bring a friend. And so it was the dad, it was Nathaniel, and then Nathaniel invited me. He said, like, hey, I know you're interested in this stuff. Why don't you come? And so we go, and I'm tripping out. I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. This is awesome. And Kim Janala, who was the weather anchor at the time, was the host. Sweetheart. And so she gives us the tour, but she's, giving Nathaniel the attention. Deservedly so. This is his thing, right? Yeah. And I'm kind of just like the other guy that's there. And so I didn't really speak at all or anything. And then so they do the news, I'm watching, and then we go to dinner at I Love Country Cafe, I remember. And so we're sitting down, we're eating, and then so at one point in the dinner, she turns to me and says, so tell me about yourself, Rob. And so, I tell her, how old I am. And so she asked me, what do you want to do when you get older? And I said, I really want to be a sportscaster. And she's like, really? And then I told her, I was like, but I'm not that good in school. I don't think I'll ever really do it, because I don't think I'm going to go to college,
Wow.
And she said, she's like, oh, don't ever say that. She's like, I don't even know you. I've been around you for, just for this night. And I really think you could do it. You're likable. She's like, I think you could do this. And she said, do you know who Neil Everett is? And I said, yeah, I love Neil. He was my favorite sportscaster to watch. And she's like, well, you know what? Give me your information, and maybe one day you could come back and just hang out with Neil.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, yeah, that would be great. And so I remember I gave her my home number and my pager number. And so I give it to her and think I'm never going to hear from her ever again, right?
Yeah.
And I almost forget about it. A couple of days later, she calls me and says, hey, so I talked to Neil, and Neil said you can absolutely come over, but he wants you to call yourself, because if you're serious about this, you'll call.
Wait, did she call or did she page you?
I'm pretty sure she called.
Okay.
She called my phone, my home phone, I remember, yeah.
Well, good thing you were home then.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I call Neil, and I'm super nervous. And, Mr. Everett, hi.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, come down tomorrow. It was a Tuesday. Or the next day was a Tuesday. And he said, come down tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and I'll meet you in the lobby. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I went down, and not knowing just what's going to happen, I just, just going to hang out with this guy who I watch on TV. Like, this is crazy, And so that day I go down there, I hang out with him the whole day. We hit it
smokes.
off. I mean, just the coolest dude. And so we talk a lot about my life and like what's going on. And so I tell him, so he knows that I'm struggling in school, and I was. I had a really hard time in school. And the funny thing is that I always worked hard in school, but I had a hard time. I really did. I mean, I was ADHD, and I struggled in certain subjects. Writing, never got anything but an A.
Okay.
Social studies, never got anything but an A. But math and science, just my brain just didn't work that way, or I just get frustrated. And so I struggled. So my freshman year, I failed. I had to go to summer school to get the sophomore year because I had failed math and science.
Oh, wow.
And then so the same thing, this is now my sophomore year, and I'm going through the same thing. This is the ending of my sophomore year, and I'm telling him, like, I got to go to summer school in order to be a junior. And bless his heart, man, I'll never forget, the end of the night, he says, all right, Rob, here's the deal. If you go to school and you show me your grades, you do a grade check, and you raise your grades and keep them raised, you can come back every week for as long as you want. Wow. And I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And so immediately, starting the very next week, I was back, and he taught me so much, and just being around the business too. Because at 15, I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
What can you do? But just being around the business and understanding the business and the day-to-day, and he would have me write things and edit things, and sure enough, I blazed through that summer school year, that whole summer. My junior year, so my sophomore year I had like a 1.4 GPA or something. Junior year, 3.8. Senior year, 4.0. And I interned the whole way. And And really at that time, by my junior, senior year, I was working at a movie theater and I was going in 2 or 3 times a week. So really, so it was like working, 6 days a week and going to school. But I was like motivated, and so I ended up getting a full ride to HPU to do radio and PA announcing and work in their athletics department. And so I did that, and so I was in school for about a year and a half, and then opening happened at KITV. And because I had been around since I was 15, and now I'm 19, right? So for 4 years, I'm around 3 times a week, and working alongside Robert Kikaula and Jai Cunningham and John Veneri and Kanoa Leahy and everybody, that when this job opened up, Kikaula was like, there's no one else. Like, we're gonna steal this kid who's been working for free for 4 years, and we'll give him this job. And so how it all happened was, Kikaula offered me the job and said, all right, here's the deal. Like, I know you're going to school at HBU. I suggest you stop for now and just take this job because the hours are brutal and you already have all this experience. Like, I think you could be really good, and I want you to like dedicate yourself to it. And so I did, and then everything after that was all timing. So I got in at 19. Maybe about a year later, Kanoa left for KHON. And so Robert was the sports director, Kanoa was the weekend. I was the third guy. And so Kanoa leaves, and then Dan Meisenzahl, who moved from sports to news, comes back to sports. And I'm still the third guy. What happened was Robert and Dan both needed to go on vacation at the same time. Because it was like getting towards the end of the year, and if you don't use your vacation, you lose it.
Right.
And so they both needed to be off at the same time. And then so that's how I was a fill-in for 2 weeks. They're like, okay, you're just going to fill in. And then I became the weekend guy. I think I was 21, and I started anchoring at 21. And then, it's...
So what do you said, Robert said it's going to be brutal hours and stuff. So for us who see you as a weekend guy, we're like, well, he works 2 days a week.
Yeah.
So what fills your schedule when you're in a position like that where you're the weekend guy?
Yeah, so back then, so you would work still during the week. You'd work 3 days during the weekday and then the 2 weekends. And yeah, it's doing stories, going down, finding stories, researching your own stories, going on doing it. And then so back then and now, it's totally drastic too, because now we're all VJs where we shoot our own video. And so I'm my own cameraman. I'm my own writer, my own editor. Everything is done by us. So at KHON now it's me and Sam Spangler, and we do it all. And so, the hours are brutal because it's like being a doctor without having to be smart. Where like you're just always on call. Yeah. There's never a day off, really. You're off, but you're never off. Because if something goes down, you got to work, because there's no one else doing your job. And so that, in that regard, that's, because I tried doing both at the same time in the beginning. And I remember that it was the beginning of a semester and I missed 4 straight classes because interviews kept coming up. Yeah. And then eventually the professor was like, look, just withdraw because I'm not going to give you special treatment. And so I had to do that. Yeah. So the hours are brutal. I mean, on the best day of the year, I work 12 hours. Like that's the easiest day of the year. I work from like 11 to 11. Huh. Today is my day off. Yeah. I was at football practice at 6 a.m. Wow. And that's where I was before I came here. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of people don't understand how crazy it is. With that being said, I talk about sports for a living, so I don't expect any pity at all, But you wouldn't believe how many people ask me, like, "Oh man, I love what you do on TV. What's your full-time job?" Right. It's like, what's my full-time job? Are you kidding me? Because people think like, oh, you just work like 15 minutes, right? Like you just show up, man. You sit down and you talk, and then you're done, right? And, like, I wish, man. That's, that it's funny. Even with the job, what you see is like my least favorite part of the whole job. Like I love shooting. I love being a photographer. I love the writing. You know, those are the things. I love editing. Editing is my favorite thing to do in the world. And so, yeah, those are the things that I love. And so that's why the day is, it's funny because like the stuff I get most excited about is the stuff that you don't ever see.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it because it's the product, but
Right.
you know, that's where I'm like the happiest. And I'm just in my office editing, and then going out and doing the news is the easiest thing I do all day. It's just, you know, it's like, oh, I just shave and put on this tie and present it, right?
Did you ever go back to school and finish school?
I did not.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is scary too, because, you know, who knows? Anything could happen, and then if I ever have to find another job, especially in another field, you know, I don't have that to fall back on. And
But
so
you
I don't suggest it to anybody.
Right.
And that's why it's funny too. I go to a lot of schools and talk to a lot of kids, and I make sure they understand. And I tell them that I don't, but I also make sure that they understand that this is not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
That not everybody gets this miraculous out of the blue one-on-one internship with this guy who's now the SportsCenter anchor at ESPN, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've been really lucky, you know, and so my message is always that, you know, go to school, you got to get your degree, you know, like, but with that being said, there's going to be a lot of opportunities that come up in your life that you might not even understand at the time how big of an opportunity is, and you got to like seize it. Like, you have to take advantage of those opportunities. So I feel like I'm able to relate to all the kids that way too, right? Where, you know, if you're a 4.0 student, you're on your way to college, you get it, you know, but then also if you're the me in that class and you mean well and you work hard, but it just hasn't worked out for you, that there's a chance. You just need to find that thing that gets you going, right?
Yeah.
And so, I like my kids, I'm going to make sure they go and I don't want anyone to think that it's, I didn't think it was important,
right.
or that it just, like I said, it worked out that way where, you know, what am I going to do, right? I'm offered this job that I'm going to college to get.
Right.
And they're like, here, you have this job now. And it's like, no, I'm going to finish school first. Like, what if that job's not there anymore, right?
Right.
And so it just worked out for me.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you can kind of do the same thing that Neil and Kim did for you, where you found somebody that...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Felipe Ojastro, who's the OC16 play-by-play guy now and for football, and he does so many different things. Kumu, right? He works in...
I always joke that I follow in Felipe's footsteps because I always take over for when he's done with stuff.
Oh, funny. So Felipe was my board operator, and for the Leahy show at AM 1500, and then for my show at Russell, and I saw it from day one. He's a bright kid and he's awesome, and when he made it clear that he wanted to get into sports, you know, I remember calling Dave Vinton and telling him, like, you got to give this guy a chance, like, you know, put him on the sideline or something, and I guarantee you, because we worked real close together, because for that AM 1500, I was a sports director for that station too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so he and I worked a lot together, because he was doing he was doing the board op, he was doing like the graphics for our website, he was doing production, you know, all the opens and jingles and all those things. And so I'm sure he hated me because I was always, you know, trying to get him to do stuff. But man, I'm so proud of him, you know, and there's been a bunch of other people that I tried my best to. Sam Spangler is one. You know, Sam is a guy that I covered. He was a pitcher for the Rainbow baseball team.
Yep.
He got drafted by the Twins. He went and played in the minor leagues for a year and a half. He came back home. And when he came back home was around the time that Kanoa was going to leave the news business. Mm-hmm. And so I was Kanoa's weekend guy at KHON. And so Kanoa and I knew what was happening. No one else did. And so in the back of my head, I knew I have to find someone to work with me. And at the time, there wasn't, you know, I had talked to Felipe to see if he was interested, but he was doing Scoring Live and the OC16 thing, and that's his passion, his play-by-play. Like, that's his passion. My passion is what I do, is that news side. Like, Kanoa's passion is play-by-play. Everyone has their different thing. And so I actually talked to Felipe about it, asked him if he'd be interested, and he wasn't, because he wanted to continue on that play-by-play path, which is, you know, it turned out great for him.
Yeah.
And so Sammy, how it all happened was I was producing the Leahy and Leahy TV show also at the time. And so with Jim and Kanoa, and BJ Penn was supposed to be a guest. And this would be filmed on Wednesday mornings. And on Tuesday night, BJ calls me and says, "Oh, I can't make it. Something came up." So I'm like, "Oh God, what am I going to do?" Like, we tape in 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What else is going on in the world? And so at the time, the current UH baseball team was playing the WAC tournament. And so I knew Sam was here. And Sam's a smart guy, and I always got along with him really good. And so I just called him to be a guest on this Leahy and Leahy show. So I'm like, "Hey, Sammy, you want to come and be a guest, talk some UH baseball?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So Jim was in Arizona covering the WAC tournament. He was, I think K5 was still doing their thing at the time, and he was the play-by-play guy. And so Kanoa and I hosted that episode. And so we bring Sam on, and Sam was great. And so during the interview, I remember, and it was the whole set was a or a kitchen table, right? Kitchen set. And so we're sitting on that table, and Kanoa's here, and I'm here, and Sam's sitting across. And I remember during the interview, I was looking at Sam, and I was like, Sam could do it. I bet I could groom Sam, and he can take my job when Kanoa leaves, and I take his job. And so after that episode was over, I asked him, I was like, "Hey, you ever think about, doing what I do?" And he's like, "Oh, no. I mean, that would be awesome, but no, I never really ever thought about it." And so I kind of left it at that because there are a lot of people around. I was like, "Oh, I think he'd be good, And then so I texted him or called him after, and I said, "Hey, bro, if you're serious, if you really want to do this, come by on Saturday and let's talk." And then so he did. And so that next Saturday, he came by, and I kind of just dropped it on him, and I said, "Here, look, here's the deal. Don't tell anyone, but Kanoa's leaving. I imagine I would take his spot. That still wasn't certain, but I figured I would.
Right.
And I'm going to need to find someone." And so the thing with him was that he had just got done playing pro baseball, and he had a signing bonus and all that. So he was kind of living off of that money, and he was finishing his degree in kinesiology.
Yeah.
And so I told him, "Hey, look, why don't you spend the next 2 to 3 months with me? Just come by maybe 3 times a week, because you're not doing anything anyway. I'll teach you everything I know. And then when this job opens up, I'll go to my people and say, this is my guy." And so he was like, "I'm down." And so that's what we did. So that whole summer of 2012, I believe, that's what he did. He shadowed me the way I shadowed Neil, and it's funny because, we get interns now that I just don't have the energy. I try my best, but I think back with Sam, and it's like, man, I had all this energy in the world, but it was because I knew I was trying to do something and do it quick, and there was a reason. And Sam, that job came up, and I fought for Sam, and they brought him in. And so how we actually did it, because Sam was so green, Kanoa agreed to stay on board for 2 days a week. And then so that way he could work with Sam could work with both Kanoa and I, and he wouldn't be thrown into the fire. And so Kanoa was already living on Maui, and he'd fly back.
Wow.
And he'd work, like a Sunday, Monday, and Sam would work with him. And then after doing that for about a year maybe, then Kanoa left for good, and then Sam was given the weekend job, and then he's the man. Sam's awesome. He's the best guy I've ever worked with. He's my best friend, and yeah, it all started from BJ Penn canceling on Leahy and Leahy.
Thank you, Prodigy, man.
Yeah. If he never did that, I probably never would have, thought about even asking Sam if he'd be interested in. And now, I mean, we've been a team since then, to 5 years, and he's the man. Yeah, I can't imagine working with anybody else.
So when you bring him on to shadow you and stuff, does management know, or is this kind of on the side? No, this was
all on the side, yeah. And so they'd see him around, and I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it's my intern," and they kind of just let me do whatever.
And they didn't think we didn't see any paperwork or anything.
Yeah, no, and. See, even then, and the difference between 2012 and now is even crazy, because now you need all that paperwork, and back then you kind of just "Oh, no, don't worry, I got it," and yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So when you said your son now is in sports and stuff. Like, is it hard for you as a parent to not want to like write down his stats and go over and like critique his?
No, I'm total dad, man. I love it, and I try not to put that stuff onto them. And really, the funny thing is that I'm sure that there are a billion people that are way more knowledgeable and passionate about like national sports than I am. Especially now, ever since I had kids, like I can't tell you the last time I just sat down and watched an NFL football game or an NBA game or anything. I don't watch ESPN. You know, when I go home, I watch Modern Family, and you know, I watch my wife has me watching Terrace House and like you know, all these like random things, because it's just my life is just too much sports. And so yeah, I don't ever get the two kind of crossed really.
Yeah.
So with my son, I'm his coach. I'm the head coach of his t-ball team, and so the practices are on Friday when I'm off, and the games are on Saturday. So and I just love it. I'm emotional when it comes to my kids. So at least once a game, I'll tear up. Just like he'll do something that just like is just adorable. You know, I love it. And my daughter, same thing. I coach her t-ball team. But now she's in Pee Wee. But it's great because the team that she's on, they work in the kind of like an association with us. So wherever our practice is, their practice is at. So, you know, so that I can be at both. And I love it. There's nothing more in the world that I love than watching my kids do something. You know, it's the best. I love it.
Do you want them to do all the different sports, or are you really like,
and not just baseball? Sports? Just do whatever. Get involved. And they already do. I mean, my daughter's in baseball and swimming and piano and ballet, and you know, she does it all, and golf and soccer, and my son he does baseball and swimming and gymnastics, and they both want to get into karate. I want to get my son into wrestling, you know, so I just if there's time in the day for it, let's do it.
I was gonna say, where do you find the time to keep up with them? This sounds
I mean, you know, their mom is amazing. So my ex-wife has them 5 days a week. I have them 2, and we're great co-parents together.
Oh, good.
And it's one of the things I'm most proud of in my life is that, you know, things didn't work out, but as parents we still work out. You know, and the kids are super happy and healthy because of it. I think, and she's awesome. So she's, you know, when she has them, she's driving around like a mad woman, and when I'm with them, I don't have a second to breathe, but we love it, you know, and it works out, and we have this big blended modern family now where, you know, she's been with someone for quite some time, and I'm remarried, and, you know, for the kids' birthdays and Little League games, we're all together, and, you know, everyone gets along, and the kids are able to see, you know, that happiness and see that everyone loves them, and so it's great. Yeah.
Speaking of getting remarried, a little fun fact is that your wife is the sister of our good friend Michael Ng.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And to kind of connect it even more so the reason why I know Mike is because we used to perform in these educational road shows for these teen pregnancy and STD prevention plays. We go to different schools.
Were there like uniforms or mascot things that you guys would put on?
So here's
like that old Chappelle skit with Q-tip or whatever.
Here's where it gets a little funnier. So the reason why I bring that up is because at one point our director took over as the person in charge of Children and Youth Day, the Teen Zone. And I don't know if you remember this, and I wanted to ask you this, but that first year that we started being in charge of the entertainment stage was when I asked you to be a guest judge for this costume contest. Do you remember that?
You got to keep going.
It was at the state capitol.
It was at the state capitol?
Yeah, so they have Children and Youth Day where it's like all kinds of stuff going on, and then they have this little section for the teen area, and we were in charge.
I remember this now. I do remember this.
And it's funny that you bring up the STD thing because
I didn't bring up the STD thing. You're taking it out of context, bro.
We'll edit this around. But we had this idea to have this costume contest but nobody came except for like 2 people.
Yeah.
And then so we're like trying to drag people up who were already there. And one of them was one of our previous guests, Kiki. She was working a booth where they were doing like face painting. And so she came up with little like face paint. And I had to ask them what they were. And she goes, I am an STD because nothing's scarier than a sexually transmitted disease. And you, along with Timmy Chang, and
I remember this.
And you guys were the guests.
I think Joe Kuromoto was there.
Kuromoto.
Yeah,
the 3 of you were judges, and you had to judge off of these.
Yeah.
Kiki wearing quote unquote STD on her face, and all these like weirdo people that showed like 2 other people that showed up in like a princess outfit. And, like,
oh my gosh, I remember this now. I would have not remembered that.
So my thing was when I was going to bring it up to you today was like, I wasn't sure if you're going to show up because the last time I asked you to do something for me was that, which was the most embarrassing thing I've ever. I was like, I don't think he's ever going to want to do anything for me again.
No. Oh man, I remember that now. Yes. And I remember us grabbing people from like the sidewalk, and I remember me going up to people. I'm like, oh, excuse me. They're like, oh, hey. And I'm like, can you come and judge this thing? There's a giant STD over there.
Did you feel like at that point, like, oh man, this is where I got to start denying requests?
No, not at all. Oh, trust me, not at all. I love it all. It's all experiences, and it's great. It's funny how I didn't remember it, and I wouldn't have remembered it if you didn't bring this up, because that was awesome.
Awesome or awful? One of the two. For me, it was terrifying, because I was like, I am so embarrassed that because I was excited when I was like, oh, we got Rob, he's going to bring Jill, we got Timmy Chang, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And then when you show up, I'm like, so sorry, guys, but this is what we're doing now. We thought we were going to have tons of people, because this is when cosplay was huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we'll get all these cosplay people, we'll have the coolest costumes.
Yeah. Well, you and I go way back, too, because of the MMA days.
Yeah.
Where you're doing the shirts and then the Fighter's Corner and all that, and... yeah, man. Like we've known each other for a long time now.
Yeah, so that is an interesting time because in Hawaii, that's kind of probably like the heyday of MMA, and this is when you and like the sports crews would come in and cover everything. When TJ would be holding these huge fights.
Yeah, Patrick Freitas is one of my best friends in the entire world. Still is.
How is Patrick?
He's good. He's living in New York now. He's running a restaurant.
No way.
And he's done a couple of awesome like big time Italian restaurants up there in New York, like 5-star diners and things. So he's doing great. I saw him when I went up to go cover the Heisman. We hung out while I was up there. He came back here. His grandmother recently passed, so I mean bad circumstances, but. He came down and I was able to see him, and we had dinner together, and he's a great dude. And at that time, him and TJ doing their thing, it was great. And when you look back at who fought here, and even too, I mean, like Robbie and Mayhem, like and Trig, and that was great, and we all knew who they were already. But when you look back at who fought here early in their, like Vitor Belfort's very first fight of his life, of his pro career, was at the Neil Blaisdell Center, you know. Tim Sylvia, before being UFC champ, was fighting here against Wes Sims, you know, and just like, you know, Mayhem started his career here. So many, I mean, we could just go down that list. Chael Sonnen fought on Maui and, you know, on J.D. Penn's organization, and it was such a great time. And I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again, too, because really with UFC buying out everybody, and it kind of killed that, like in the same way in pro wrestling where once WWE bought out WCW and ECW and all that, then it kind of just changed the business because, you know, you just don't have the creative minds that are trying to create different products from what there is, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes it a little harder. But those are awesome times, man. Awesome time. And so many funny stories out of those times where, because it was, you know, big time MMA. It really was big time MMA, but in a small market and in a small town, really, the way things are done here. And so it's just so cool. And I remember I was just telling Sam the other day, Dan Henderson would come down and corner Mayhem. Yeah. And I remember there being like a weigh-in, and it was either a weigh-in or a press conference, and then it's all over. And I remember I came in on my day off to do it. and sent, so my cameraman came and went back to go give it to Robert. And I was going to leave, and Patrick's like, I'm caught up with a few things. Can you take Mayhem and Dan to their hotel? And at the time, I'm driving like a pickup truck, right? And so I was like, yeah, but I'm driving a truck. And they're like, oh, that's fine, whatever. And so I remember Mayhem, being Mayhem, he like runs and he like dives into the bed of my truck and tells Dan, like, you go up front or whatever. And I remember Dan being just so socially awkward and like shy. And so, I mean, this is like one of the baddest men in the planet. And I'm like this little Portuguese guy, like, and I'm trying to have conversations with him, and he won't look me in the eye, and like his head's down, and I'm like, oh, so you enjoy Hawaii? He's like, oh yeah, very much so, and and it was the craziest thing, and I'm like, they get out, and he's thank you so much, and runs off, and I was like, what in the world just happened? Like I thought he'd be crazy, like how is he friends with Mayhem?
Yeah.
Like they are two opposite like creatures, man. Yeah, those are good times. Those are fun times.
Yeah, I used to have to do that too with Dan and Mayhem and pick them up at the airport or the hotels. And we actually asked Dan to be in one of our TV commercials because I thought, oh, it's going to be Dan Henderson.
Yeah.
But to your point, he was so uncomfortable. And like, this is coming off of when Mayhem did our commercial where he's wacky and zany. And then I'm like, oh, we're going to have Dan Henderson. This is when he won both belts in Pride. So he's a 2-time champion. And then he comes in, and I feel embarrassed now because at the time we thought we're paying him, so he's professional. Yeah. We paid him $200 to be in a commercial, which is like nothing. Yeah. Then I wrote out the script for him, and he's just like, every take was the same, this monotone. Yeah. If you're down here in Kalihi, come down to Fighter's Corner. And we're like, okay, great. Little more energy. Let's try it again. All right, take 2. If you're ever down in Kalihi. I was like, that was fantastic. That's a cut.
Oh, great. My goodness.
Get him out of here. So, but it'd be funny. Like we'd have the weigh-ins at Eastside Grill.
Eastside Grill, I'd, get a weigh-in and mochiko chicken.
Yeah. And do you have any of your, other than the story you told, any of your craziest memories of something in the back that happened or dealing with a certain fighter?
Some of it I just can't tell.
Okay.
Some of it, it's that crazy.
I probably was there for some of those too.
A couple of them, I remember Nick Diaz being here for a Strike Force event and interviewing Nick, who must have just been stoned out of his mind. It was the weirdest interview I ever did, where I think it was like the opening question, and it was something like, hey, how does it feel to be here fighting in Hawaii? And 8 minutes later, he's still answering that question, but has nothing to do. He's like talking about who knows what, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I remember, I think it must have been Nate, because it was whoever was with him, or could have maybe
his brother
Jake.
Jake Shields.
Jake Shields.
Yeah.
It wasn't Nate. It was Jake Shields who was traveling with him at the time. And Jake's cracking up behind him the whole time. He's like, dude, you're an idiot, And Nick was just so serious, and he's trying to answer this question. It was bonkers. And I remember just thinking, like, what is happening right now? And then years go on, and you learn more and more about the Diaz brother, and you're like, that's status quo.
That's a standard Nate Diaz.
Yeah, I remember Phil Baroni, when he fought here, he was an interesting cat where he was a total showman, right? Like he was like total pro wrestling, and so it was the first time I met him, and he was like, super energetic and going crazy and then I was like, all right, thanks for your time. And then he totally just dropped the act. And he's like, so was that okay? Was that good? Was that? And I was just like, what? Like, what? Dude, you're Phil Baroni. You can do whatever you want, man. Like, and is that okay? Oh, can you edit it if it's not? He was like super insecure about like
what?
And so that you just saw all that stuff, man, and it was just fun nights. Where I don't know if I've covered anything that really got my heart racing the way main events back then did, because there was just so much electricity and energy, and then it was a weird thing, like with these athletes. They were so human being here in Hawaii. You know, it's not like watching a UFC event where they're just like larger than life. Like these guys are so human. You're helping Patrick out and driving him to the airport. You're having lunch with them, and and not because you're schmoozing, or it just, it's how it is. Like, you got to eat, they got to eat, and you go to the same place, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, this is Rob, he works with it, or I'll sit here, and so it was really interesting, just covering MMA at that time here, and I miss it, man, because it was fun. It was fun times. I
was telling Jamie, because Jamie got into it far after the heydays. She's only fairly recent with it, maybe like the last 3 or 4 years. So, we haven't really had any major, fights here.
Yeah.
But I always tell her that, at the store at Fighters Corner, it was just like a normal day when someone would just come, like Anderson Silva would just walk in and sit down and watch fights with us.
Yeah.
And like, I always tell her the funny story about Nico Vitali. He came and he's just like sitting next to the cash register, and I happened to have a box of brownies, and I was like, can I get you anything? You want some brownies? Like, oh, don't tell anybody, but I love brownies. And he ate 4 brownies there. And I was like, am I going to ruin your fight diet? Like, this
he
is
lost
bad.
the title right after that, Nolan.
He did, actually.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, Hawaii. That could have been. I just kept those brownies in the back. But yeah, I mean, it was so cool. It's like, I always likened it to like being a fan of like the NFL and owning your own franchise, where it's just normal that these people come in and just hang out. And that was the neat thing. Nobody realizes that these fighters are so down to earth.
Yeah.
Like more so than
any other athlete. I tell people this every day. Every day I tell people that they're the best people that I deal with in my business are the mixed martial artists. And it's because for most of them, especially now, back then you had guys who may have been just street brawlers who like find their way into it. But now, if you're not in jiu-jitsu at 6 years old, and you're not boxing at 10, and you're not doing some form of something, good luck, because that's why guys like Max Holloway exist. That are just total packages, that are just, wherever you take the fight, they can fight you that way. You don't see too many guys anymore that are just, Chuck Liddell, right? Where it's just like tough as nails and can strike with the best of them, but, you take them down, then... these guys have grown up in martial arts, and so the discipline and the respect and the, treating your elders a certain way and everything is just instilled in them, that they get a bad rap, man. Yeah. I mean, like anything else, there's crazy people, because there's crazy accountants, you're not going to find a group of people and there's not crazy ones, because there's everywhere. But, I mean, most of the guys and girls that are in mixed martial arts are just the nicest, greatest, most gracious people. So it's funny how that works. Yeah.
So with that being said, before we end it, I know everybody wants, and you talk to Dana yourself, but everybody here in Hawaii wants to know, what's it going to take to get a UFC here? In your opinion, knowing kind of what's going on, is it even possible? And if so, what will it take for that to happen? It
will take Max Holloway to continue to win, to continue to be one of the faces of the UFC, to a point where it's just like, you know what, we're just going to bite the bullet on this one. Because let's face it, they really do not want to do an Aloha Stadium venue. And the UFC hasn't. Abu Dhabi in 2008 was the first and only outdoor event UFC's ever had. They've had an event in Australia with a retractable roof and closed it. And Abu Dhabi was a nightmare. But again, it was in the Middle East, and so you didn't have to worry about rain. There's so many weather situations you didn't have to worry about, because it's out in the Middle East, and the time difference, it was done at night. For the UFC to hold an event at Aloha Stadium, of all, you gotta flip the coin and be like, please don't rain, please don't, be a windy day, please don't, all these things that tropical weather provides.
Yeah.
But then also, you start your prelims at 11:30 a.m., which means guys are fighting at 2 p.m. under the sun at Aloha Stadium. That's just reckless. Like, that just can't happen.
Yeah.
These mixed martial artists have enough to worry about. I mean, imagine how humid and hot. I'm there at football games that are in the afternoon, and it is hot. It is hot, like crazy hot. Like, you don't drink water, you're in trouble. And I'm not even doing an athletic event, you know? I'm just walking around and talking to people. So I find it really hard to believe that it will ever be at Aloha Stadium unless something crazy is constructed where like you're covering everything, and I just don't know if that. But again, if Max continues to win, and it's hard. It's hard to turn on. But you got to remember this: Conor McGregor wanted an outdoor event in Ireland and didn't get it. If Conor isn't getting an outdoor event, you know how difficult it's going to be for Max to get an outdoor event. So. It's going to have to happen at the Stan Sheriff Center, I feel like.
Right.
But there's only 10,000 seats. UFC hasn't held a pay-per-view card in quite some time under 16, and they do fight nights. But then, like when I talked to Dana about it, he's like, all right, yeah, maybe we could do a fight night, but Max couldn't fight on a fight night. Mm-hmm. We put him on pay-per-view, So you may need the next up-and-comer to get to a point. So what happened is Max he exceeded Hawaii.
Yeah.
He exceeded the chance of a Hawaii event. I feel like I hope this doesn't happen, but if he loses the title, loses another fight, but then starts winning again, so he's a name, but he's not main draw anymore, he's not a main eventer, then I could see that happening. Mm-hmm. But right now, given the nature, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. And there's so many different variables, too, with, like, the cost of coming to Hawaii, where, the travel, the hotel for everyone and all the employees and all that. Then it's the construction of the ring, or the cage, and the lighting system and all that. It's like the WWE. They come here, but they don't bring Raws here. They don't bring SmackDown. They don't bring pay-per-views because they got to bring all that stuff.
Yeah.
You've been to the WWE events. It's house shows where there's nothing. Mm-hmm. There's just like a video screen and that's it. So the UFC can't do that because they have a brand and all their events are the same. So that's an issue too, where people say like, oh, how can you hold an event in Frisco, Texas and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but not Honolulu, Hawaii? Say, well, that cage and all that stuff was in Memphis, and they drove it to Frisco.
Yeah.
They can't do that for Hawaii. They have to bring everything. And then either they bring it and leave it here for future events, or they got to take it, bring it back, which now puts them behind the eight ball of getting to all these other locations. Because right now, I was told by someone in the UFC that each region has 2 variations of the cages, because pay-per-view size and fight night size, they're smaller. Like, there's different size. The fight night is smaller. And so there's one that's always on the West Coast, there's one in the Midwest, there's one on the East Coast, and there's one in Canada, each one. And so if there's an event in Anaheim this weekend, and let's say the next closest West Coast event is Vegas, after that event's over, they drive to Vegas, they leave it in Vegas, right? So you now take one out of rotation, or you have to create a whole new one and leave it in Honolulu, which doesn't make financial sense either, And so there's a lot of situations that need to be worked out in order for it to work. And I don't want to say it won't ever happen, because I feel like it will, because it should. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, it's a business. And let's face it, the UFC doesn't need Hawaii right now. Because people can go to Vegas, and, as crazy as it sounds, if I'm the UFC, I'd go to, Green Bay, Wisconsin for the first time before I come to Honolulu for the first time. Because Honolulu, like Dana White told me in his interview, ratings for UFC in Hawaii is some of the best ratings they get in the country. Right. So they don't need Hawaii. Yeah. People are watching, right? You're trying to go to new places to, like, build the brand and all that. If Hawaii ever gets it, it will be, the UFC will probably eat money, and it will just be like a nod, like a thank you, or, Yeah. Because even, too, I tried to tell him, I was like, okay, like, let's say Max can't fight in this fight night. Robbie's a former champ. Robbie can headline it. Vitor had his first fight here. He could headline it. There's 10 UFC fighters in Hawaii. Yancey could headline a fight night, maybe. So there are ways around it, but they just don't seem like they would do it unless it's for Max. But then at this point, Max is too big. So it's like, it's one of those weird things where the stars just aren't aligned. Right.
Well, that's the most detailed explanation where it makes sense. Because all we've ever heard really was Well, the weather's not going to be cooperative. But in hearing all that, it's like, okay, now we see why. Because the other thought was before people thought the reason why they're not coming here is because of the politics here and that.
Well, at one point it was. Because in 2008, Dana wanted to do GSP BJ here.
Right.
But at that time, there was an issue where the tax on an MMA event was bananas. And really the one simple reason was there was no cap on pay-per-view tax. And so most places, whether it's a pro wrestling event, anything, if you hold an event, a live event that's going to be broadcast on pay-per-view, the state or commission or whatever it is, however it's set up in that state, gets blank % of your pay-per-view revenue. But they cap it, right, at like, let's say $600,000. So if you're the UFC and you're getting, a crazy amount of buys, and there's no cap, you're going to end up paying the state of Hawaii, $40 million or whatever it is. And so Dana White's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so the sad part was that at the time he was most interested, that was in place. Now, luckily, that's since been lifted. There is a cap now, and I believe it's like $650,000 or something, which is normal. Now he could come, but now it's just at a time where he's just not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And since that event, so Aloha Stadium was going to be the first outdoor event. Since then, he's done Abu Dhabi, didn't like it. Yeah. Hasn't done one since.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. Oh, well.
So, we'll see. But, hey, Vegas is only playing right away.
Yeah. I'd actually prefer to watch it in Vegas anyway.
Yeah.
I think the novelty of having it here is worn off on me.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like it'll be, even if it was at Aloha Stadium, I'd be that guy like, oh, it's so hot out here.
No,
I can't see anything.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing, too, is that I would love to see it, just to check it off the list of, like, UFC got or Hawaii got a UFC event. But, yeah, like, the actual, like, how it will work out, like, I'm terrified of how it's going to work out. Because especially if they do find a way to get Aloha Stadium, there's no way around it. There's going to be fights at 11:30, 12 o'clock. Like 11:30 in the morning, 12 o'clock.
That's brutal.
And that's not going to be fun.
Nope.
That's not going to be fun for people.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be crazy.
I guarantee nobody's going to show up that early.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you look at UH football games that are moved to early afternoon for national television where they got to kick off at 4 p.m. Attendance is horrible.
Yeah.
Because people are just like, I ain't doing that. I'm just buying on pay-per-view. It's not going to be as fun as some people think. But with that being said, if they can do it, let's do it, man. Let's have an event here, because just to show people too that how much people love MMA here in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of like the founding.
It really is. It truly is.
For it, yeah.
There are weird places like Bettendorf, Iowa, and Honolulu, Hawaii, that when you look at the early days of MMA, without those places and without those, T.J. Thompson, who I've talked to many people who should be in the Hawaii Sports Hall of Fame one day. He really was a huge part in MMA's growth.
Yeah.
World nationwide, I should say. Worldwide, they didn't have a problem, but nationwide. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for.
No problem.
I know how crazy your schedule is, even more so now than
ever. Pick up the kids now. Now is my real day begins.
Yeah. But congratulations on everything, and especially congratulations on your wedding. And
thank you. If you got any awesome. STD judging you need me to do, just.
Well, come October, we're gonna call you now. I'm so glad that you still showed up after that horrible debacle.
I'll show up again, bro.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks again to Rob for taking time out of his crazy schedule. I mean, you heard how busy this guy is, and so for him to come in and spend a couple hours with us is just amazing. So a huge debt of appreciation to Rob for joining us here and hanging out with us. And I just think it is the coolest thing that I know somebody who is an official UFC ranker. I mean, the guy has the influence to rank UFC fighters. That's crazy. So that is something that I didn't know and I learned today. That is really fun. And, thank you so much to each and every one of you for continuing to support this podcast. The fact that it continues to grow each week and more downloads is just mind-blowing. And so we are having a blast doing this, and hope you enjoy the ride along with us. And look out for our next episode. You're not going to want to miss it, of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong.